we've got another fantastic treat. Charles, are you on, brother? You have to unmute yourself there.
I certainly am. Good
All
afternoon.
right, Charles Fisher, welcome, brother. So good to see you.
Thank you.
Charles is a great friend of mine, a leader of men. Like I've told you, a wealth management and expert with family assets. Fantastic. Vice President of Morgan Stanley Wealth Management Systems. Charlie Fisher, a senior VP. He's dedicated his entire life, his career, to working with high net worth families. He's managed billions, produced secured wealth with clients from all over the world. Charlie's also a decorated vet of Operation Desert Storm. Thank you, brother, for your service. The Army Commendation Medal for outstanding service. The list goes on and on. Charlie agreed to be here with us just to share because he knows how important it is for us to understand the pandemic market, how to win in a financial crisis. You know, the wealthiest people in the world become the wealthiest because they're able to seize the moment of opportunity when financial crisis hits. And because they're prepared, they understand, they position themselves. Charlie is going to talk to us about this. Charlie, thank you, brother. Thank you so much.
Thanks, Keith. And I want to, can everybody hear me? Everybody
Yes.
hear? Excellent, excellent. All right, this discussion, first of all, if you can't understand me, I have a Southern accent, so it might be difficult to understand. South New York, Queens. So just tell me if they say something. I want this to be really meat and potatoes, something that you're going to come away with and feel good about. The other speakers were great. Some things that I wrote down that are in common, and then I'm going to call an audible on some of the on the topic that I'm going to speak about. It's going to be very powerful. Harley, Keith, Roy, what did they all have in common with their businesses and their ideas? And I'm going to tell you what it was. It was process. Every one of them has a disciplined process that they can articulate. In many cases, what you want, and I'm going to show you what people with wealth do in order to safeguard their assets. And it's more about planning than anything else. You're not going to hear about any get rich quick. In fact, if you'd like to double your money safely, I suggest that you fold it in half and put it back in your pocket. We're going to talk about what wealth strategies, some preservation strategies. I may discuss some things that involve you getting additional advice, and I'll talk about the concept of an expert team. But I'm not an attorney or an accountant, although I do play an attorney on television sometimes. So I'd like you to just know that. So any of the things that we talk about may or may not be viable for you. I'm also going to send you a deck about this presentation, which has all of the disclaimers, such as, yes, performance is nowhere. I wish I had that fast talking guy to get through it. But today we're going to talk about planning, and we're going to talk about some meat and potatoes stuff. First, I'd like to change the name of the topic to the actual solution. Mark Twain, classic writer, classic guy, had a quote that at least it was attributed to him. It ain't what you don't know that gets you in trouble. It's what you know for sure that just ain't so. Think about that. I'm going to disturb some of you thinking about your finances and financial planning. I've run into some people, and I'm going to tell some stories along the way. I'm going to tell the story of James. Names are all going to be changed to protect the client's identity and what have you. James was a very successful man, but he had the syndrome of not wanting to look at his own demise or his mortality. Any football fans out there? All right, Miami Dolphins. The man that started that team and built the stadium's name was Joe Robbie. Anybody wonder why Joe Robbie doesn't own the stadium anymore? His family anyway? Well, it's because of lousy planning, and we're going to try and avoid that. In fact, it was such poor planning that his family lost their legacy. Imagine your family legacy, the Robbie family. This guy was a true American success story. Came over as an immigrant, you know, this whole thing, $35 in his pocket, and built an empire. Built a stadium with private money and lost it, lost the team. Why did this happen? This is what we don't want. And I'll tell you my personal story at the very end with some ideas. First of all, process. This has been jarring. The reason that most people have made some really bad errors financially, and we're going to talk about our process, and we bring everything down to a formula, is because they did not have a fallback plan. So what I want you to write down first is, what is your sell discipline for any investments that you have? If you have a financial advisor, I'd like you to ask them point blank, what's your sell discipline, and tell me what your plan is if we run into another financial crisis like 08, 09. Like, what are you doing now? How are they communicating with you? Or if you're doing it yourself, I want you to ask yourselves those questions. I'm going to share my screen. Bear with me. Just looking for a file. All right. I'm going to go on the whiteboard first, and then we're going to talk about each specific item. We define wealth management. What I mean by we is my team. So the billions under management are my team. We do everything together. I'm on a team of 12. I'm a senior partner on that team, a managing partner. So I've got almost 30 years experience. My other two partners, 15 and 32 respectively. So we put our heads together. So we define wealth management, and forgive me for the swigglies. I'll try and get this better. W as wealth management equals IC plus AP plus RM. Wealth management equals investment consulting. So if you have a financial advisor, 100% of us do the investment consulting piece. Some of us do it better than others. In this particular case, where the rubber hits the road are the other two pieces. That's advanced planning, which we're going to get into in detail, and relationship management. We're going to talk about relationships that you should have as successful entrepreneurs, and the wealthiest folks have something called a family office. You can have a family office if you work with the right team, where everyone is giving you collective advice. As I assume that everybody has worked with an accountant. Everybody have a CPA? All right. Everybody have an attorney, or at least used an attorney? Okay. I'm going to ask you, who is coordinating the advice between the respective experts on the team? That's where most money is won or lost, is really not in market conditions, albeit there's some things that we need to do to protect the assets. But most of the things that people make mistakes on the planning portion, non-coordination. Quick story. Have had a client, God rest his soul, who is I'd say a younger kind of retiree. He was about 68. He's still tooling around in a Corvette. And he had an investment account that he wanted me to look at. It was managed by somebody else. And I said to him, sure, I'd look at it. And I noticed that his account was titled in his name. We'll talk about titles and things like that. He was supposed to have that trust, his trust on that account. Now, some background. And I'm guilty of some of this. Guy had 3 wives, needed to make sure that money was going to exactly who he wanted to. In the current situation, the way that and he had thought that he had done the work, he would have lost probably 40% of it to federal estate taxes at the time. He also would have had the assets go to people that he did not intend it to go to, and it would have been probated, meaning you want to avoid that. It's time consuming. It's again, get some legal advice, but get a look at the legal documents that you have right now. Another quick recommendation. Has anybody ever heard of a HIPAA authorization or a healthcare proxy? Okay, that is a document, that's a living document where you can have somebody be your healthcare advocate. According to HIPAA laws, and people are alone in hospitals right now, all the more reason you want somebody to have an advocate that can talk to a nurse, a doctor, what have you. Very simple things to get. The consequences of not getting these things. If my client would have died, he would have disinherited unintentionally his second wife. His daughter would have had a problem. There was a special needs in trust involved. It would have been a nightmare. We got it straightened out. So by the numbers, check these things. Make sure that everyone is cooperating together. By the way, he called up the two advisors. He called up the wealth advisor, who proceeded to blame the lawyer. And then he called up the lawyer, who proceeded to blame the wealth advisor. I'm suggesting that that's not true wealth management. The people that are high net worth and the wealthiest have a coordinating team that answers as one. Get yourself somebody that can be, and I call myself a personal CFO to my clients. And I mean that deeply. I'm interested in their businesses. I want to be a part of their business. If they suffer, I suffer. I'm writing some letters to the editor about some things that I don't like about a particular industry that I service. So I'm in it for the long haul. Let me see if I could share something I wanted to share with you guys. Let's see. Files. There we go. And how do I get something off my desktop? I got a lot of computer guys out there. I'm looking for something on share computer. All right, I'm gonna go with the whiteboard. I'll do a better job of drawing. Okay, so let's talk about the advanced planning process. Let me write this way. Better? Much better, right? Okay. Advanced planning. That has 4 different components as far as we're concerned. And this is going to tie into some things that some of the other speakers talked about. One is CG, charitable giving. I'm going to start backwards because that's one of my favorite things in giving back. There's going to be lots of opportunities for people to give back. Do you know whether your investments are set up according to what you care about, some of the charities you care about? I've met some people with that are very wealthy, and I call it the prettiest girl at the dance syndrome. Everybody thinks that they're taken care of, their charities are taken care of, their transfer of wealth is taken care of to the next generation. But ironically, we had a client that was worth a lot of money. And fortunately, we came in there, at the 11th hour. He had a simple will. He was worth a couple of $100 million. A simple will would have probated all of his assets. He had interest in 46 separate properties, real estate. No particular buy-sell agreements that made any sense or continuity. This is where we stepped in and we coordinated it. He had a child, a minor child, that would have been destroyed as far as his legacy went. So this is what we get into. So advanced planning equals relationship management too. So how do we manage the relationships? We manage the relationship with clients, and any financial advisor should be able to articulate a communications plan. How many times are you getting communicated with a year? We touch our clients an average of 36 times. We also manage the circle of the expert team. So some of you on the call are experts, are subject matter experts. If we were doing evaluation on a company, we need to have a particular accountant come in and do the evaluation to make sure that everything is coordinated and you get back this vetted piece of advice. Why does this make sense? The ultra wealthy are interested in doing what's important for them. They want to make sure that their families are taken care of. They don't want to have a scenario like Joe Robbie. Now that we have the coronavirus, we've added, as part of our expert team, medical doctor. Because as far as I'm concerned, our biggest source of wealth is our health. There's no way that any of this is going to make any sense or matter. The next portion is, you know, what are we going to do is coordinating together. If you work with a CPA, does he have a conversation with your financial advisor before the end of the tax year so that you could have a coordinated plan to save money on taxes? Has your attorney coordinated with your wealth manager to see that all of your accounts are set up the way that they are, so that if, God forbid, something happened to anybody, that you wouldn't end up giving your assets to somebody that you didn't intend to? I mean, his wife could have had, he had a business interest where he could have had somebody's pot-smoking 20-year-old son as a business partner. We want to get all of these things out, and the way that we do this is through our 5-step process. First, you should meet with somebody, anybody. Have a discovery meeting with somebody that's in the financial advice business and can do a coordinating job with you. We have meeting number 1 is 90 minutes, and we ask 70 questions. Because we're not for everybody, and frankly, everybody's not for us. We want to make sure that we have the same kind of values as you do, for you to learn something about yourself and about your portfolio. So that meeting runs 1 hour, 1.5 hours. It's complimentary. I ask a lot of questions. I do a lot of listening. Then we decide whether or not it's appropriate to get to meeting 2. Meeting number 2 is where the rubber hits the road. We come back with a stress test. Another key item that people of high net worth want to know is, how much actual risk are you taking in your portfolio? Are you comfortable being down 30, 35%? If the answer is no, then that's got to be re-examined. How much risk are you actually taking? If you can't articulate that and what the risk reduction strategy might be, or what your stress test of your finances might be, that's a job that we do with your accountant. We run a highly sophisticated analytics on your portfolio down to the security, meaning down to, if you own XYZ company, we'll tell you how much risk is there and ask some tough questions about why you own it. And we'll also give you an exit strategy. That's the first 2 meetings. Meetings 3 are our mutual commitment. And then we get into a series of meetings consistently. Meeting number 4 is where we coordinate, and we call it our 45-day review. We put you online. We make sure that you understand everything. We start introducing the expert team and coordinating about all of the things that could go wrong in your, and what we want to prevent, all the red zone things. And then 5 is the quarterly face-to-face or Zoom meetings that we do consistently. You would be touched a lot. I'm going to give you a couple of practical things that you can do right now that will help you. Number 1, if you do not have estate planning documents and you have anybody that you care about, I mean anybody, or you care about yourself, because there are some living documents, I want you to run, not walk, to an attorney or get some of those documents in place. If you have them and you have not looked at them in a number of years, or you can't find them, take them out, make sure that they're up to date. Have a legal set of eyes. Most attorneys are willing to do worth their salt, are willing to do it off the clock. If somebody needs somebody, I have someone that could do that. Make sure that you're right. Be sure. That's the way that the ultra high net worth people that we work with and our other colleagues work with, is they're sure. Everything is done by the numbers. And they know, like I know, that I'm not an expert in everything. So I hire the experts around me, and we help you do that and coordinate it to bring you back a superior vetted piece of advice. So go take a look at that. Number 2, I'm going to give you the simplest financial plan ever. And if we actually followed this, including the United States government, we would be much better off. Everyone should divide their money into 3 separate buckets. Bucket number 1 is our short-term investment fund. That needs to be in a money market or something that you can get at almost immediately, very liquid. What do you need there? Well, entrepreneurs, I'm recommending 9 months to a year worth of expenses. If you don't have it, don't let it freak you out. When I started 26 years ago doing this for myself, I didn't have it either. And I've been broke plenty of times, just never been poor. Second one is intermediate term. This is where you can start to make some sort of return on your money. We keep it in some tax-free items, and this is really goal-based. So let's say you have a cruise that you want to go on. I couldn't imagine that, but if you wanted to plan for a world cruise, you could put it in this bucket, and we would put a goal and put the money there. So you can actually see this. You know, I know my handwriting is killing me here, but seriously, this is a great way for you to visually see things. And we put it on a flow chart and a mind mapping software, so when you get a good deliverable. And the third is where the rubber hits the road. That's long-term investments. This is money that you need to keep for 5 years plus. You will not, this is money that you can put aside, that you're going to use to generate long-term wealth. Your businesses are in this bucket. Any 401k assets that you have are in this bucket. Any other types of retirement plans, they're in this bucket. For those of you that are entrepreneurs out there, there are a lot of tax-friendly strategies with some interesting retirement plans. And there's some things that we can do to coordinate with and it doesn't have to be our expert team. We can use your people that you trust, and it'll be a win-win situation for everybody. You get a great piece of vetted advice, your trusted professionals, and we know that everybody's on the same sheet of music. I'm gonna leave you with one thing on the reason that I'm in the business that I'm in. When I was 10 years old, my father died quite suddenly of cancer, and I remember he was in a VA hospital. I hadn't seen him in a couple of months, and they didn't know. They had no financial plan, no insurance. nothing. And I can remember being on public assistance and my mother being really embarrassed pulling out food coupons. It's a little easier today. I understand they can get a debit card or something for it. But I said to it, that must have done something to me, because later on in life, I had said to myself, after I got out of the military and I came into this business, I said, I don't ever want to be in that position. I don't want my friends to be in that position. I want my family to be in that position. Now, it's not likely that any of my clients are going to be on food stamps, let's face it. They have businesses and complicated, but couldn't they make some mistakes like I discussed? Couldn't they unintentionally, have a strategy where they lost money on taxes because it was inefficient, because it wasn't coordinated, because all of the heads aren't together? I'll leave you with one thing. I love what I do. I care about what I do. I'm interested in charity and paying this forward. So I hope I've been of value to you. You certainly have been of value to me today with a lot of the things that you learned. I'm going to leave it up to Keith. If anybody wants to contact me, I'll offer what I'll call our second opinion service and our stress test. It's about a $1,500 value, no strings attached. Again, we're not sure whether or not you're the right client for us, and we may not be the right advisors to you, but we don't even make a decision on anything until that we're going to retain each other until the second or third meeting. So if you'd like that, I think you can benefit from it. I appreciate your time. God bless. God bless America. Thank you.
Thank you, brother. Thank you so much. Thank you. Any questions that we have immediately for Charlie? Brother Charles, anything at all about sharing investment strategies, especially during a crisis? I think he was pretty straightforward about the buckets, how we need to plan and prepare. Let me ask you something, Charlie. Do you want them to email me and then I'll reach out to you if someone has?
I'll give you my email. You can also look at our website, and it's really easy to find. It's the Franklin Avenue Group at Morgan Stanley.
Good.
And I can be contacted through that, or my email is Charles, CHARLES .Fisher, FISCHER @MS.com.
Good. Excellent. We got it right there. Fantastic. What are some of the things that you've seen as some of the biggest investment mistakes during a hardship, during a hard time, like what we've been going through? What are some of the most common mistakes, even people with who are very wealthy? What are some mistakes that are made?
Fear, well, they're based on a couple of different things. Fear and greed are the two biggest mistakes. And what can alleviate some of the fear is having a plan. But fortunately, we had very few people. I had 2 out of several hundred family relationships that I'm managing right now that wanted to go to cash in March. That was the absolute worst time to do that. Now, I'm not suggesting we don't want to, we had raised cash, by the way, into that. So raising cash is just a strategy to try and, allocate portfolios and do things. But people don't follow the plan. They say one thing, and then when they really get tested. So there may be some folks out there that want to reevaluate things. And by the way, my personal opinion is we're going to have continued volatility. I mean, I hope I'm wrong, but a lot of times these things look like a W, not a V. That's just too cute. Things go back down and go back up. So there's something called it's nasty, but they call it a sucker's rally, where people get sucked in. They think that or a value trap. Oh, look, Citicorp at $30 in 2008. What a steal. Stock went down to $1. don't get involved in value traps. Evaluate what you have. Another common thing is don't fall in love with a stock. It's not going to return the favor. I have conversations with people about why IBM has to go back to this certain level. Or, Uncle Charlie said, never sell the National Cash Register, which is now like 5 other things, right? You cannot fall in love with a company. It's not going to return the favor. If it's a business, you have to constantly reevaluate it. Do I still want to own this? Not that I bought it back then. Now things change. So that's where I ask people to ask their financial advisor what the sell discipline is. When you're in a bull market where everything is going up and up and up, it doesn't take a lot of brains to be involved in that. But tell me what you're going to do to minimize my losses. No guarantees, because the truth is that there is no guarantee in anything. But you have to make intelligent risk-oriented things that make sense. And
Good, thank you, brother.
Yeah,
We've got another question here. What are your thoughts on crypto in your asset allocation strategies at the minimum as a hedge against fiat currency-driven economies?
Okay, you're not going to like the answer to this. We do not include it in our portfolios because Morgan Stanley has a prohibition of us recommending it, including the ETF, which contains it. We have a desk that facilitates the trades, but like for governments, like if they want to, I'm making this up. They want to bail out a terrorist or something, so they want to do. Someone insists in cryptocurrency, but a long time ago, I decided that I wasn't going to recommend an investment that I didn't understand and I couldn't fully comprehend. But as far as fiat currencies go, if that's your concern, and inflation might be the concern, we are adding precious metals to the portfolio. We're adding alternatives. So we're going to put 2% silver, 3% gold, and then we're going to another type of a hedge for the other 2%.
Good, thank you. So some more of that people can reach out to you. Any other questions that you guys have, please email me, or you can see there in the comments, Charlie directly. Charlie, thank you so much, brother. Always such a value add, man. I appreciate you taking time out of your valuable schedule to be here with us. So God bless you, man. Let's hear for Charlie.